How to study less and get higher grades, the science-backed way. Introduction. Most students believe grades are a direct function of hours spent studying. The more time you put in, the better you'll do. It's an intuitive idea, and it's also mostly wrong. Decades of cognitive science research show that how you study matters far more than how long you study. Two students can spend the same 5 hours preparing for an exam and walk away with wildly different results, not because one is smarter, but because one used study methods that actually build durable memory and understanding, while the other used methods that feel productive but barely stick. This isn't about shortcuts or gaming the system. It's about replacing low-value habits, rereading notes, highlighting textbooks, cramming the night before, with a small set of techniques that are dramatically more efficient per hour invested. Students who adopt these methods often report studying less overall while performing better, simply because they stop wasting hours on techniques that create the illusion of learning without the substance of it. Here's what actually works, and how to build it into your routine. 1. Stop rereading and highlighting, use active recall instead. Rereading notes and highlighting text are the most common study habits, and among the least effective. They create a dangerous illusion. The material feels familiar as you reread it, and that familiarity gets mistaken for mastery. But recognizing information when you see it is a completely different skill from retrieving it from memory when a question demands it, and exams test the latter. Active recall flips this. Instead of looking at the answer, you force yourself to retrieve it from memory first, through self-testing, flashcards, or closing the book and writing out everything you remember. This retrieval effort is what strengthens the memory trace. Research consistently shows that students who use practice testing outperform those who spend equivalent time rereading, often by a significant margin. How to apply it? After reading a section, close the book and write down everything you remember before checking your notes. Turn your notes into questions rather than statements. Instead of writing mitochondria produce ATP, write what do mitochondria produce, and quiz yourself later. Use flashcard tools that hide the answer until you've committed to a response. Past exam questions and practice problems are gold. They force retrieval under conditions similar to the real test. 2. Space your study sessions instead of cramming. Cramming feels efficient because it produces short-term recognition. You can recall material well enough for a test tomorrow. But that knowledge decays fast, often within days, because the brain hasn't had the repeated, spaced exposure needed to move information into stable long-term memory. Spaced repetition, reviewing material at increasing intervals over time, is one of the most well-established findings in learning science. A short review session today, another in 3 days, another in a week, and another in 2 weeks produces dramatically stronger retention than the same total study time compressed into one long session. How to apply it? Start reviewing material within a day or two of first learning it, not weeks later. Use a spaced repetition system. Many flashcard apps automate this, showing you cards right before you're likely to forget them. Build a simple review schedule. Revisit new material after 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, and 2 weeks. Resist the urge to overstudy material you already know well. Spend disproportionate time on what you're weakest on. 3. Interleave topics instead of studying in blocks. Most students study in blocks, doing 20 problems of the same type in a row before moving to the next topic. It feels organized, but it's actually one of the least effective ways to build real understanding, because you're not practicing the hardest part of any exam, figuring out which method or concept applies to a given problem. Interleaving, mixing different but related topics or problem types within a single study session, forces your brain to actively discriminate between concepts rather than passively apply the same method repeatedly. It feels harder and slower in the moment, but produces significantly better long-term retention and the ability to apply knowledge flexibly on exams that mix question types. How to apply it? Instead of doing all algebra problems, then all geometry problems, mix them within the same session. When reviewing multiple subjects for an exam period, rotate between them rather than finishing one completely before starting the next. Trust the extra difficulty. The fact that interleaving feels less smooth is actually a sign it's working. 4. Use the Pareto Principle. Focus on the 20% that matters most. Not all material is equally likely to appear on an exam or equally foundational to the subject. Blindly studying every page of a textbook with equal intensity wastes enormous amounts of time on low-yield content. How to apply it? Review past exams, practice questions, and the course syllabus to identify recurring themes and heavily emphasized topics. Pay close attention to what your instructor repeats, writes on the board, or explicitly says is important. These are strong signals of what will be tested. Prioritize foundational concepts that other ideas build on. Rather than obscure details that are unlikely to be tested and unlikely to matter later, that don't aim for 100% mastery of everything before moving on, aim for strong command of the highest value material first, then circle back. 5. Study in short, focused blocks, not long, unfocused marathons. Long, unbroken study sessions feel productive but are often riddled with mind-wandering, and attention quality degrades significantly after 25 to 50 minutes of focused work. A 4-hour session with a wandering mind produces far less real learning than 90 focused minutes. How to apply it? Use focus sprints of 25 to 50 minutes, followed by a 5 to 10 minute break. A common version of this is the Pareto Technique. Remove your phone from the room during study blocks. Even a phone sitting face down nearby measurably reduces available cognitive capacity. Treat breaks as genuine breaks. Step away from screens rather than switching to a different form of scrolling. Track how many focused blocks you complete rather than how many hours you sat down to study. 2 focused 45-minute blocks often outproduce 3 unfocused hours. 6. Explain it like you're teaching someone else. One of the most reliable ways to find gaps in your understanding is to try explaining a concept out loud, in simple language, as if teaching it to someone with no background in the subject. This is sometimes called the Feynman Technique, after physicist Richard Feynman, who was known for insisting that real understanding meant being able to explain something simply. How to apply it? Pick a concept and explain it out loud, in your own words, without looking at your notes. Notice exactly where you get stuck, use jargon to paper over a gap, or can't complete the explanation smoothly. That's precisely where your understanding is weak. Go back to your source material specifically to fix that gap, then try explaining it again. Studying with a partner and taking turns teaching each other sections of material is an efficient way to apply this at scale. 7. Sleep before the exam, not just before studying. Pulling an all-nighter before an exam is one of the most counterproductive things a student can do. Memory consolidation, the process by which the brain converts newly learned information into durable long-term memory, happens primarily during sleep. Studying late into the night and skipping sleep sacrifices the very process that would have locked in the material you just reviewed. How to apply it? Stop studying new material at least a few hours before bed on the night before an exam, and prioritize sleep over one more review pass. That if you must study late, do a final light review rather than trying to learn new content. Cramming disrupts sleep and undermines the consolidation of everything studied that day. Build sleep into your study schedule as a non-negotiable block, not something to be sacrificed when time runs short. 8. Eliminate multitasking while studying. Studying with a video playing, notifications buzzing, or multiple tabs open feels normal in a hyperconnected environment, but it substantially reduces the quality of encoding. Switching attention between tasks, even briefly, carries a real cognitive cost each time, and repeated interruption prevents the sustained focus needed for deep processing of new material. How to apply it? Put your phone in another room, or use an app that blocks notifications during study blocks. Study one subject in one sitting rather than jumping between different apps, subjects, and distractions. That if music helps you focus, choose instrumental or ambient tracks without lyrics. Lyrics compete directly with the verbal processing needed for reading and writing. 9. Get feedback early, not just before the exam. Waiting until the exam itself to discover what you don't understand is the most expensive possible way to get feedback. Practice problems, past papers, and quizzes taken throughout the study period, not just at the end. Reveal weak spots while there's still time to fix them. How to apply it? Take a practice test or past exam early in your study period, even before you feel ready, purely to diagnose where your gaps are. Treat wrong answers as the most valuable part of practice. Understanding why an answer was wrong is often more instructive than the material you already knew. Seek feedback from instructors, tutors, or study groups throughout the term rather than only when a grade is already final. 10. Protect your physical foundation. Sleep, exercise, hydration, and nutrition aren't separate from academic performance. They're the physical infrastructure that determines how well every other technique on this list actually works. A sleep-deprived, dehydrated, sedentary brain simply cannot encode and retrieve information as efficiently as a well-rested, physically active one, no matter how good your study technique is. How to apply it? Prioritize consistent sleep, especially during exam periods. This is often the first thing students cut, and the first thing that should be protected. Build short bursts of physical movement into your day, even brief walks between study blocks, to support focus and mood. Stay hydrated and avoid relying on sugar or excessive caffeine to power through study sessions. Both produce short bursts of alertness followed by crashes that undermine focus. So that's it, 10 science-backed ways to study smarter, not longer, and actually walk into your exams more prepared than ever. Here's the truth, it's not about grinding for more hours. It's about using the right techniques, active recall, spaced repetition, interleaving, so every hour you put in actually counts. If this helped you, hit that like button. It really helps this video reach more students who need it. Drop a comment below. Which technique are you starting with this week? Active recall? Spaced repetition? Let me know. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, Stack Smile breaks down another science-backed way to learn better, focus deeper, and grow smarter. Study less. Learn more. Keep smiling. This is Stack Smile, signing off.